Back now on Triad Today, and one of the things we haven't really covered at all before on this program, I wanted to do today, I wanted to understand more about the topic of parental rights, and so we brought in an expert to help us with that. Next to me, Samantha Smith is an attorney with Dummit Fradin, attorneys at law, and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And welcome to the garden. Have you been to the garden before?
I've been here once before. It's beautiful.
Beautiful, isn't it? Now let's talk about parental rights. First of all, do parents have rights under the Constitution? Is it spelled out?
Yes. Actually, parental rights are one of the most fundamental rights that we hold as Americans. Generally, that's a very protected status, to the right to parent your children.
Can parents lose those rights?
Yes. With termination of parental rights action, what we call a TPR, they might lose those rights if there is a showing of abuse or neglect.
Abuse or neglect, and you said that a termination of parental rights. Does that happen often? What all does that involve?
Well, generally, if we show that there has been abuse or neglect, the court will enter the TPR, and at that time, the parent-child relationship between the parent and the child is severed in the court's eyes. So at that time, the parent loses that protected status under the Constitution, and they don't have any rights to make decisions for that child.
Is that, we haven't practiced this or rehearsed it. I'm just curious, is that always a permanent thing? Let's say somebody is a drug abuser, not a very good parent. Can they lose their rights and maybe get them back? Or, I'm just curious.
In rare circumstances, and usually the way that these termination of parental rights actions work, it's two phases. The first phase is a statutory phase where check boxes have to be met, such as an abuse or neglect. And the second phase is a discretionary phase where it's up to the judge to determine whether this is in the best interest of the child to terminate that parent's rights.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, when you mention a judge, can a judge look at all the check boxes and say, yeah, there's been some abuse, yeah, there's been some neglect, and goes down the list, but, I don't think I'm going to terminate the rights. Does that happen often?
Yeah, it does happen, and that's when the judge kind of sees, they might have an issue with if the child doesn't have another parent that is very active in their life, they might not want to actually terminate that other parent's rights.
So you have to take everything into consideration. What about in terms of when adoption is involved? How does all this change, or how does it apply?
So with that discretionary phase, when the judge is looking at this, adoption might come into play as a good thing for the child, because at that point the judge might see that the child does have two people that are ready and active and they want to take care of the child. So the judge might be a little more inclined to enter that TPR at that point.
Now, how would you specifically, I don't want it to sound like you and I are doing a commercial, but how would you help someone? If I were a parent, if I were charged with or accused of being abusive or neglectful, do I come to you and you're trying to help me work this out, or what's your role in this?
Right, so it's my role at that discretionary phase, even if there was abuse or neglect found, it would be my role to sway the judge in determining whether it's in the best interest of the child. So we usually ask clients to bring in evidence, we give testimony, anything of that nature to help with that discretionary phase.
And the bottom line always that you try to do what's best for the child or the children no matter what, right?
Yes, the best interest of the child standard is what the court always uses.
Well, I just think that's important, not only important information, but an important service that you render from helping people with that and trying to sort it out. Up on screen, dummitfradin.com is the website for more information or to get to Samantha or to try to set up an appointment. And the number on screen is also 877-978-3218. Samantha Smith, thanks so much for coming out.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. We'll be right back.